Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Cinema Heroes. I'm Justin Speck.
I'm Jay Stu.
And today we're talking about Rebel Moon Part 2, The Scargiver. Released in 2024, directed by Zack Snyder. Written by Zack Snyder, Kurt Johnstad, Shay Hatton from a story by Zack Snyder. And starring Sophia Boutella, Jamon Hunsu, Ed Skrein, Mikhail Hausman, Faye Duna, Ray Fisher, Anthony Hopkins is the voice of Jimmy, and a few other folks. Balisarius is played by a guy with a cool name named Fra-Fee. Assuming if that's how you pronounce it. His name is, it's spelled F-R-A, that's his first name. His last name is F-E-E, Fra-Fee.
I thought you were saying frothy.
Frothy?
Yeah. like a macchiato or something.
Right. And Cary Elwes, of course, is also the king in a small scene. He's not in this movie very much.
Yeah.
So this was the follow-up to December's Rebel Moon Part 1, which you and I thought was
bit lackluster.
Bit lackluster, a little disappointing perhaps. And this movie was on your most anticipated movies of 2024, which was we made that list before we saw Part 1.
Yeah.
For me, I feel the same way about this one that I kind of did the first one. It was a bit lackluster, in my opinion. What about you?
I feel the same. I feel mostly the same as I did the first one, but I do like this better than the first one.
Really?
Basically the second half of the movie is really what I enjoy.
Once the action starts, right?
Yeah, once the action starts, there was a lot of awesomeness, but it felt like a little bit of a chore to get through, and this just feels off. Both movies feel off. I feel like there is too much universe to cram into two movies,
right?
Because you have so many characters and they're all giving their backstory. They did that in this movie. They was all giving their backstories around the table. And I'm like, I was thinking this should have been a TV series.
Yeah, it really should have been. I think it would have benefited from being long, like 10 episodes or something, 10 one-hour episodes or something. Because that's, I think I like Part 1 more because, like you said, it was a chore. The first half of the movie felt like a chore to get through. Once the action started, it was okay, and I was, digging it a little bit more. But that first half, man, it was slow, and I didn't really care for that scene with the backstories. It's just like I don't know. I found myself bored for the first half of this movie, and then finally, once the action kind of started, I was like, all right, here we go.
The thing about the flashback scenes with all the backstories, if it was a TV show, each episode would have been a backstory,
right?
And I would have been fine with that. But cramming all of those backstories into one scene, it felt weird. So it felt like an overly long montage. I feel like if that was going to be the case, like if he was going to have everybody tell their backstories all at once, he shouldn't have shown them.
Mm-hmm.
He should have just let everybody go around the table, give their little 1 to 2 minute dialogue scenes, and then once we got to what's her face, Cora, then she would kind of give her backstory. Or we would see her backstory because she's the protagonist.
Right. Which we before that scene, we already got a little bit of her backstory because we see the scene of her shooting the princess. She confesses to, I think I always thought his name was Gunnar, but they pronounce it like Gunnar in this movie or something. So
yeah, I thought it was Gunnar too.
So we kind of already got hers, and then we get a little bit more with that scene. I don't know. It's one of the, I want to like the movie. I like the universe. I like the world building. I like the aesthetic.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. I like the aesthetic of the film. But there's just, I think it would have benefited from being a mini series or something.
Yeah.
And I'm curious. I'm not like super interested or excited to watch the director's cuts now, but I probably will. And hopefully they're not like 3 hours a piece or more. But
Come on, it's Zack Snyder.
I know it's gonna be. I know, but I'm wondering if I mean, it's weird to me that Netflix did this. That they had him make like these two PG-13 versions of the film, and then the real version of the movie is gonna come out later. Because why not just do the director's cut right off the bat? I don't know. Maybe they were worried about the runtime or something, people not watching it. But
yeah,
I'm curious if the movies will be better with the director's cut version, or if the director's cut is just going to have like more blood and stuff like that.
I think it's just going to be more blood and more violence, more action. Which is fine,
Right.
Zack Snyder is a master of those things.
Sure.
But I don't see there being more substance. I would like there to be, but I just don't see that. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's my fear. That's my worry. Is that it's going to be 3 hours, or maybe it won't be, but it'll be like a 3-hour movie, and it'll just have more violence and more, blood to make it R-rated, but it's not going to really have the substance to it.
And like somebody said for part 1, they said it was the most Zack Snyder movie that Zack Snyder ever made.
Mm-hmm.
And the same can be said for part 2. Just a disclaimer, everybody, all of our listeners already know we are both very big Zack Snyder fans.
Mm-hmm.
But these two movies are unfortunately everything that Zack Snyder gets criticized for.
Right.
And it makes me sad.
Makes me sad too. Yeah.
Zack Snyder is a wonderful human being. Regardless of how you feel about his filmmaking, he is a genuinely good person.
Right.
And it makes me sad that so many people have such strong negative feelings about him personally, right? Because they don't like his style movies. His style of filmmaking. And these two movies, I feel, are reinforcing that negativity, and it's unfortunate. It's just really unfortunate. But I will say this: I do applaud Zack Snyder for making the movies he wants to make, in spite of that.
Yeah.
He is well aware of all the divisiveness amongst the reception of his movies, and he still makes the movies he wants to make. Zack Snyder is Zack Snyder's number one fan, and what I'm saying, that's how it should be. That's how you are your first audience member. If you don't like it, don't make it.
And I think if he were to say, okay, clearly they don't like what I'm doing, I guess I'll try to make a movie that, if he was to set out to try to make a movie that like he thought the critics would like, I think it would just not be it just wouldn't feel like, well, and some people would say this is a good thing, but it wouldn't feel like a Zack Snyder movie. It would be inauthentic. It would be inauthentic. Yeah, I agree.
I strongly believe that it would be a very cookie cutter type movie that wouldn't have any character to it. If he just made the movie that everybody wants him to make, it would probably be an objectively decent movie, but it would probably lack all the aesthetic, all the
right.
Yeah, and I don't want that. I would rather Zack Snyder make a bad Zack Snyder movie than a good generic studio movie.
Right.
Yeah.
And I agree with everything you said about him. I really do. I still am a Zack Snyder fan. These movies aren't turning me off of from being a Zack Snyder fan.
I'm still going to watch the Snyderverse 30 times a year.
And I probably will watch the director's cuts of these movies, but and I'll see whatever he does next, but I do find it unfortunate that he does have a lot of haters, and that these movies are unfortunately kind of what they all criticize him for. Like you said, a lot of people think Zack Snyder is all style, no substance. And I feel like that's what kind of these movies kind of are, is just it's a lot of style, not a lot of substance.
I don't believe that as a whole. I don't believe that is true for his filmography in general, but I do believe that is kind of true for these two particular movies.
Yes.
Watchmen is one of the greatest superhero movies ever. And I know before, when we reviewed it, I gave it a 4.5. I'd like to up that to a 5 now. It is a 5 out of 5. Nice. Yeah. I have always said what Christopher Nolan said last year. He said, if Watchmen came out today, people would be raving about it. And I 100% believe that. It just came out too early.
Yeah.
It was too heavy and too like complex of a movie. When it comes to Batman versus Superman, like Zack Snyder's love for just the Snyderverse in general, but Zack Snyder's love for mythology scratches an itch for me, because I love mythology, and it's unfortunate that a lot of people can't understand where he's coming from with that perspective, because he said that superheroes are the mythology of our time, and I 100% believe that. It's just unfortunate that people are unwilling to at least try to see things from his perspective, and I think that that's a little bit his fault, kind of, because Zack Snyder does have a tendency to think that everybody's going to get what he's doing.
Right.
And I do, because, I guess we're kindred spirits, but
sure,
you have to take into consideration the general audience. And Zack Snyder is very specific when it comes to his filmmaking style, which is fine. But again, you got to take into consideration that not everybody that's watching these movies are Zack Snyder fans. So while you do want to make a movie that you like and that is pleasing to your fans and to your followers and people that just admire you, you still got to take into consideration, okay, if I weren't a Zack Snyder fan, how would I want to what would make this story more digestible for a non-Zack Snyder fan? I think that should be taken into consideration, at least. You know what I'm saying?
Sure. So what are the positives that you have about Rebel Moon Part 2?
Obviously, first of all, the action. Once it gets to the action is awesome. There were definitely moments in the third act where I was like, that is cool. Like when Korra and Atticus Noble were fighting, and they were like sliding down the I can't remember what they were sliding down, but it was really awesome. they were sliding down something like having like a sword fight. Like it was awesome. I do really like the scenes when the farmers are finally
fighting back.
Fighting back. I did really enjoy that, and I really enjoyed when I forget her name, Bloodaxe's sister
shows up.
when their whole fleet showed up. That was awesome.
That was cool. I agree. That part was pretty sweet.
That was awesome. I was underwhelmed by Jimmy. I wanted to see more Jimmy, and he's barely in the first movie. He's barely in this movie. Yeah. I guess he's in this one a little bit more, but not
I
much.
I liked the scene when he finally shows up and starts being part of the fight. But then you're right.
Yeah.
Then he kind of disappears again.
Yeah.
And so that was a little weird. But that scene of him showing up and fighting was pretty cool. But it was
good.
It was just short. And then he does go away. And I didn't think about it, but you're right. He just kind of disappears again.
Mm-hmm.
It is interesting. I don't know if Zack Snyder set out to do more than just these two originally, but now there's talk about how there's 4 to 6 movies planned out or something. And the reason it's 4 to 6 is I saw a quote from him where he was saying he wasn't sure if each installment would need to be 2 movies because he was like, will somebody accept, since part 1 and since the first movie was 2 movies, if we do another one, will they accept it just being 1 movie, or do we need to make it 2? And I was thinking, you don't need to make it 2.
You don't need to make it 2.
Like, unless it's the whole problem that we were talking about, where like there's too much universe in this one in the movie. But I feel like Rebel Moon Part 3, because this movie does set up a sequel, it could just be 1 movie. Like we could just make it 1 movie, and maybe Jimmy would have a bigger part in that. But I don't really see Jimmy having a bigger part in that. But who knows?
I mean, I don't get me wrong. I understand why he doesn't have more to do, because he's loyal to the old king,
right?
Who is dead.
King, yeah,
the slain king. So he kind of like it within the story. He has nothing to do,
right?
So I get it, but it's still disappointing.
Right. No, I agree. I mean, well, they set it up the way they set it up in the first movie, where like they don't fight back anymore, and like that one military guy is shooting at him or just kind of being a bully to him, and then he ends up killing a soldier. You're like, okay, he's going against kind of their protocol, and you expect him to. I 100% expected him to come in, be part of the fight in this movie, so it was satisfying seeing him show up.
Yeah.
But I did expect him to have a bigger role. I expected
him to show up earlier,
and just be more of a, like a larger factor. Like, I just expected him to be a part of a bigger part of the kind of the big plan, the grand scheme of things. But it was really just, he kind of came in, saved the day, and then was like, all right, bye. Yeah.
And then he showed back up like right at the very end.
And I'm, like it's the part of the reason why I think he might have a bigger part in the third movie, if the third movie gets made, is, in the first movie, he talks about the Princess Issa. And so to have Jimmy be a part of trying to find the Princess Issa makes sense to me. But I don't know. We'll see, I guess.
Yeah.
So the positives for me, I agree with what you said. The action, visually, the movie looks stunning. I love the opening title again. It's very kind of 90s action movie, which I just love. I wish I could see this on the big screen, because seeing the Rebel Moon take up like the whole screen would be pretty amazing to me. I like
the opening of this, but the opening of the first one is better.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
They were called Rebels. That was awesome.
Yeah. I did appreciate that Jimmy gave us kind of a previously on type thing in the very beginning of this movie.
Previously on Rebel Moon.
Right.
It should have been a TV series, man.
Yeah, it should have been. I agree. And they could have had Rebel Moon show up, that big title show up on every episode, which was sweet. I still like Ed Skrein a lot as Noble. I think he's a cool bad guy. I think his motivations are clear and they make sense to me. And he doesn't seem, he's not super two-dimensional. I think he's maybe a little more two-dimensional in this movie than he was in the last movie, but but I still like him, and I like his acting. I like Sofia Boutella's acting. The rest of the group, though, in this movie, I mean, they all kind of get their moment to shine, but not really. It's like they had cooler moments in the first movie. It was
I agree.
So just that's another reason why I felt like this one was especially lackluster, is because they spent a whole movie recruiting these characters, and then it was just, I don't know, it just didn't it seemed like mostly forgettable kind of scenes with a lot of them. I don't know. General Titus, you predicted that he was going to have a little bit more to do in this movie, which he did. He kind of rallies the farmers. That's another issue. I mean, I know we only have 2 hours, but the whole training the farmers to be these warriors, and then they're actually pretty good when it comes. Like it's very fast.
Yeah,
very kind of convenient, you know.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. I was like, I don't dislike the training. It just happens too fast.
Right.
Like I could believe some of them are naturals.
Right.
But like everybody that you know tried was just excellent at
right, exactly.
at shooting and sword fight. Is like, come on.
Yeah. I agree. I was gonna say there's that one character, I think his name is Den.
Mm-hmm.
He's like kind of this big, and I thought they were gonna kind of play into this, and I guess they kind of did, but not as much as I thought they would. But he ends up jumping onto a ship, and I think he's fighting Noble. And obviously we know Noble, he's not going to kill Noble in this scene. That has to be Korra.
Right.
But he's fighting Noble, and Noble seems slightly surprised at this guy's strength. And I was like, this is kind of cool. I like the idea that like this farmer has like the natural, you know, strength of being a farmer, which Noble was not expecting, because he thinks, oh, these are just these peasant farmers.
Right.
It doesn't really think about the fact that these guys have built the strength from doing their labor every day.
Right. They work all day. Right. Like, of course, they're going to be strong as oxes.
Right. Exactly. So I kind of like that. But then he ends up getting killed kind of quickly and thrown off the ship.
Off the ship. The way I don't know. It was kind of funny the way he landed on the ground. He was like,
yeah, I rewound that because I was like, that was weird. I was like, what? Rewound. I'm expecting there to be. That's a scene where I expect a lot more blood, because he gets his throat cut, and it's like you can barely tell.
You don't even see it.
Yeah. So I'm assuming in the director's cut it's going to be a lot more violent, and then him hitting the ground, I imagine, will be a little bit more violent too, because it looked weird in this movie.
Yeah.
It also felt like it came too soon. Like it seemed like the ground was farther away.
Yes, I agree. Yeah.
It seemed like the ground was farther away.
Because he fell. Did he fall through some clouds?
It's what it seemed like. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe it was
like dust or something.
Yeah. Maybe it was like exhaust. But I assumed it was clouds, and then like when he falls, like, oh, I thought the ground was a lot further away from the ship than that. Yeah.
I'm glad I wasn't the only one there, because that was a bit weird to me. But anyway, it's like I believe that he was naturally good, you know, because he was strong.
Yes.
But then there's that training montage scene with the young blonde woman.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like holding the gun all terrible, and they like tell her to put her arm down. And then she immediately blows the head off of like the dummy that they're. I was like,
I think her name was Sam. I think it was Sam.
I was like, that was a really good shot for like her first time.
Her first time, yeah.
Like I said, they only have 2 hours. I wouldn't necessarily want them to stretch out the training montage more. But I do think maybe there should have been, and not to say that the farmers were just like dominating the fight, but I do think there should have been maybe some more just showing how like out of their depth they are. Like, yes, they have these amazing soldiers teaching them, and they have these amazing, like this help, but like just not being prepared for this, basically.
So I think what this movie could have done was kind of treated like a sports movie. So there are training montages in sports movies, but you spend almost the entire third act with the players of the team trying to get better, perfect their craft, because normally they start out and they suck.
Right.
Or they're good individually, but they can't play as a team, or something like that. So I think a lot more time should, like, at least like the first 35 to 40 minutes or so should have just been training, not necessarily training montages, but think back to Remember the Titans, which is one of my favorite movies. That, they established that the black players and the white players don't like each other. They give all of the players their character flaws, and then they spend the next, like, and all of that happens within like the first 15 to 20 minutes, and then they spend the next 30 minutes, roughly around 30 minutes, in, I want to say Gettysburg, training at camp.
Mm-hmm.
I would have preferred it if it was like that. If they had given smaller characters more development, which would kind of usher in the, like Jaimin Hansu's character and Tarak. Yeah. Like those types of characters, they could be, they'd be the mentor type characters,
right?
And they're the smaller characters, and those characters, their character development could kind of marry into each other, and we could just spend like 30 minutes on that. I would have preferred that instead of just flying through the training montage.
Yes,
and then all of a sudden everybody's awesome.
Right.
Like, make them earn the awesome.
Right. Yeah, make them earn the awesome. That's what this movie does not do. Yeah. They're just awesome.
Yeah.
like
yeah, we're angry farmers, and we're excellent fighters because we're so angry.
Right. Right. We've never held a gun before, but I can shoot it, no problem.
I know how to shoot it because I need to know how to shoot it.
Right. Exactly. One thing I kind of appreciate with this movie is that they get the info, I guess, about Noble right away, which I thought was kind of cool because it shows them arriving back at the village. And Korra's like, I killed Noble, the Dreadnought. The protocol is when an admiral or something dies, then they have to go back to wherever, their headquarters or something. But then that military empire, whatever you want to call him, guy that had stuck around last movie that I remember thinking like we never saw him again. Yeah. He is now on the rebels side, and he is kind of acting as a spy. He has been reporting back to the Dreadnought, telling the Dreadnought what they want to hear, and finds out that Noble is alive. Yeah. And so within like the first 10 minutes of the movie, he's like, nope, Noble's alive, the Dreadnought's coming. And they're like, what? And so they at least are like, can prepare, because kind of what I expected with this movie was that it was going to be happy life on the farm, and then the Dreadnought arrives and they're like, what? And so which would have been worse, I guess, because there would have been no training montage, and they would have just been slaughtered. Yeah. Right. Exactly. And it would have been more unbelievable if they had not been slaughtered. So it was smart, I guess, to do it that way. Yeah. There's a couple things I can appreciate, but it's mostly style. Like I said, it's it's the visual aesthetic of it, the action, some of the acting, but really like character development and stuff like that. It just doesn't really do it for me with this movie. Even with those backstories we get, it's just I don't really find myself caring that much about most of them. Like when Nemesis dies, I was kind of just like, okay, like it didn't really do anything for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I didn't really I didn't buy the love story between Korra and Gunner at all.
I didn't really buy that
I
either.
will say this. It was awesome when Gunner killed Atticus Noble. I did like that moment, but as far as the rest of the relationship between Korra and him, no thank you.
The moment I liked with Gunner or Gunnar or whatever, however his name is supposed to be pronounced, is when Korra is about to give herself up over to Noble to save the village. And he kind of is holding on to her, and she's like, let me go. And then she realizes that her gun is gone, and Gunner points the gun at their bell to announce, to start the attack. Yeah. And he fires at the bell to make it ring. I like that moment a lot. I thought that was
a great moment.
Yeah.
And although I don't like their relationship, the shot where they kiss was a beautiful shot. And you see the rings of the planet in the sky. Right. Oh my God, that shot was incredible. Yeah, that's probably my favorite shot of the entire movie.
Yeah, another relationship that I just didn't quite get or didn't really feel like was earned. And it's not like a romantic relationship, but Tarak or whatever, and Blood Axe's surviving member, Milius, I think her name is, maybe. I don't know. They're like towards the end, Tarak is like, I was prepared to die, but now I don't really want to. But if I am going to, she's like, let's do it together. And he's like, yeah. And I was kind of like,
that felt
really?
cheese AF. Like that felt super cheese.
It felt cheesy, and it felt like it came out of nowhere.
Out of nowhere.
I was like, have you two even spoken to each other? Like, it just
at the table. I think that's the only time they spoke to each other was at the table.
It just didn't feel like, that moment didn't feel earned either, just because I didn't feel like they even knew each other. It was that one really made me scratch my head.
Yeah.
So that was kind of weird to me, but the fight scene between Cora and Noble with the not lightsabers, how'd you feel about all that?
I liked it. I loved it, actually.
Yeah, that was a good scene. And that's the scene I think you were talking about, because the dreadnought ends up tilting because it's crashing. And they're sliding, right? Yeah.
Yes.
And they're fighting while they're sliding and everything. Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah.
I was curious about the end of that fight, about the reception of it, because I like Cora. I like the character of Cora, and she's fighting Noble, and then Noble has the upper hand and is like strangling her.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's Gunner who ends up stabbing Noble, and it doesn't quite kill him because she ends up, I assume this is a scene we'll actually see. It's off camera in this version, but he like falls. She kind of traps him in this like door, and then she slices his head off, I assume, and kills him. But but at first my thought was, this female character is saved by the man, like the male character at the end.
I didn't see it that way.
Yeah.
The way I saw it was his character had come full circle. He has like the only character development in these two movies, because in the first movies, he's soft. He's kind of a wuss a little bit.
Right. A little bit.
And he does a complete 180 in this movie, and that was his like full circle moment. Well, I guess that would be 360, which is bad because you don't want to go back to where you started.
You don't want to go back to where you started.
But that was his
full 180 is a complete.
His full 180 is complete. So I didn't see it as the man saving the woman. I mean, obviously that's what it is, but I thought that is how it should have been.
Yeah, and that makes sense. I agree with you.
He saves her, overcoming his own fear and selfishness, and she delivers the final blow. I thought that was appropriate.
Right. And she does. And so that I was happy to see that. I was curious. It didn't bother me necessarily, but that thought did cross my mind. I was like, okay, so she has to be saved by a male character, but then she's the one that does do the killing blow. And I was curious if other people had that same kind of reaction to it, or if it was just me, but I do agree with you about Gunner. I do think that that was part of his character arc, and I think that was very good. I am curious. I probably won't watch these movies back to back, but I would be curious if they work better watching them back to back.
I thought the same thing. I was like, this might work better if it were watched as a whole.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Because like I said, I think it would be best if it were a series.
Right.
So
Zack Snyder has said that you should watch them back to back, but part of me kind of dismissed that when I read that, because of course he wants you to watch both. It gets more views on Netflix that way, which is good, good.
Yeah.
But at the same time I was like, but maybe they should be watched, because I do think it was meant to be one movie that got kind of chopped into two movies. So maybe it is kind of meant to be watched as one movie, but I don't know. Maybe I'll do it one day. Maybe I'll sit down and just take 4 hours and watch the whole thing, but
I'll do it one day, because I don't hate these movies. I just don't. I don't love them.
Right. I don't hate them either. They're just disappointing.
They're okay. Yeah. They're just okay.
And I was hoping for more from Zack Snyder.
Yeah. And all the hype that it got, it should have been more than average, and these are just average movies.
Right. You and I consider them average. I did look up the Rotten Tomatoes score, which I have a kind of a love-hate relationship with Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah. People hate them.
People hate them. And I was also curious if people dislike this one more or less than the first one, because I noticed
More.
on Letterboxd, yeah, they do. They hate it. They dislike it more. I noticed on Letterboxd that somebody that I follow, they thought that it was better than the first one, because I was feeling conflicted, and I was like, I think I like the first one better. And then you, at the beginning of this episode, you said that you liked this one better than the first one.
Yeah,
but the
not by much, but
No,
like
right.
this much.
The critics, so the Rotten Tomatoes score for part 1 is a 21%, 57% audience. Part 2 has a 14% and a 52% audience score. IMDb has part 1 at a 5.6 out of 10, and part 2 is a 5.2 out of 10. So the general consensus is that the first one is better, but not by much. So it was interesting to hear that you like this one a little bit more. And this one has a bit more action to it, I suppose. Although with the first one, it's just, there was some action, but it was like Nemesis fighting that spider woman thing, and then like going on to the next person and them having a little bit of an action scene. But this one has the big battle, which was cool. But yeah, Tom Holkenborg's score. There's a couple of scenes in this movie where the score really stood out to me, and it didn't sound as derivative of Zack Snyder's Justice League as the first movie kind of did.
I agree.
And I liked it. So I might check out this score on Spotify and listen to it a little bit more intently.
Yeah. Yeah. The score in the third act is really good. I thought the same thing. I was like, I'm really noticing what I'm hearing. And it sounded like its own thing, and like you said, it didn't sound as derivative of Zack Snyder's Justice League, and I'm glad that it didn't, because I like Tom Holkenborg, and I want to like everything that he does,
right?
But yeah, it's I'm glad that it wasn't as Justice League-y as the first one. I'm very much looking forward to hearing his score for Furiosa, like a lot. Like if the music in the movie is anything like the music in the trailer, oh my God, my ears are ready.
Right. Did you watch Fury Road yet?
I did.
Okay. Did you like the score? Because he did the music for the first one.
Yes.
And that was a good score.
I liked it. Now I like Fury Road. I don't like it as much as everybody else.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but I do like the movie. I'm just not, head over heels for it.
Right. I need to revisit it. I saw it in the theater and I loved it in the theater. But I have not really watched it since then. So I'm curious to revisit it and see how I feel about it.
I watched it fairly recently, so I won't watch it again before Furiosa comes out, because it's still kind of fresh in my mind.
Yeah, this is a tangent, but I was looking at like the slate of movies for the next couple of months, because I couldn't remember when Deadpool was coming out, because I did not watch the new Deadpool trailer. And
it's July, right?
Yeah, it's July 26th. I was hoping it was May, because I just want to see it, but it's not until July.
You haven't missed anything, by the way, for that Deadpool trailer. There are like a few Easter eggs and some minor characters that you see for like a split second that are this big, but
right. Well, I may have seen a screenshot of that, because it's almost impossible to avoid stuff nowadays.
Yeah,
like, I'm not going to watch this trailer, and then you get on Instagram or Reddit, and all it is screenshots of the trailer.
Yeah.
Like, okay,
that trailer is just a regular trailer. Like, you could watch it right now and it would not be spoiled at all.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
I'm hoping they don't spoil any. I'm sure I'm guessing there's going to be like one more trailer before July 26th, and I'm hoping they don't show too much. But anyway, other like Furiosa, I'm interested in. I hope, I don't know if I'll get to see it in the theater or not, but the only other movie between now and Deadpool besides Furiosa that I am interested in seeing really is Bad Boys 4.
Yeah. I want to see Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes.
Oh yeah. I
I want to see that.
that trailer doesn't do a whole lot for me. So I'll see if you like it. Maybe I'll try to check it out. But yeah, I'm not rushing to see that one.
Yeah.
All right, Stu, it's that time. What would you give Rebel Moon Part 2?
I'm gonna give it 3 dreadnoughts out of 5.
Yeah.
Which is the same thing I gave the
Part
first one.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's
right.
It's just okay.
Yeah. I'm gonna go if this were Talkville, with their Rosenbaum rating, this would be a heater.
A heater.
Yeah.
Right down the middle.
Right. So right down the middle out of 5 would be 2.5. So I'm giving it 2.5 dreadnoughts out of 5. So, which is a half star lower than I gave part 1, which I think is how I feel. It's pretty accurate, I think. I'll be curious to maybe watch the movies back to back, see how I feel them then, and then also, of course, the director's cuts when they come out. I don't know. I don't think we'll do an episode on the director's cuts, but maybe we'll just kind of throw our thoughts into another episode or something. In the future. But yeah, that's how I feel about Rebel Moon. We'd love to know what you think about Rebel Moon Part 2, The Scargiver. You can always let us know at cinemaheroes.com. You can also comment on our Instagram posts. The handle is @cinemaheroes. I was also going to say, I guess if on Threads, I don't check that very often, but we are on Threads as well. If you're watching this on YouTube, give a comment down below, give the video a thumbs up, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I think that about wraps it up for this episode, though. I'm Justin Speck.
I'm Jay Stu.
As always, thanks for listening. Thanks for subscribing.